Golden State does, but they're back on top in the top spot in the Western Conference standings by a half game over Denver as they play hot potato with that number one seed.
I look at those stats sometimes, and it's still hard to believe that Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Kevin Durant play on the same NBA team.
Same team.
Same team.
Same team, yep.
Like, what is going on here? It is kind of beautiful, though. When they're playing well, when they're playing well and Steph's back, it was very workmanlike tonight.
Right.
They break the rules of everything we've grown up to know. And that was that, when you win a championship, everyone had a great summer. You work hard. You do all the little things. There's something special. You bring it every single night. The Warriors are good enough to play around with the game of basketball. They can come out and lay an egg, lackluster effort, and then come back and blow out a team like the Pistons, which is a good team, a good NBA team, by 20 points, and then limp into the playoffs, laugh and joke, and win the NBA Finals. You got 4 or 5 of the greatest competitors right now in the league, and that's why I'll never bet against the Warriors, but it just goes against everything that we learned. But they are that good, and they found a way now in today's NBA to turn it on and off.
I mentioned 9-7 since the All-Star break now. I don't know how much that matters to you guys. I am curious about your take on the lineup change with Andrew Bogut starting, and DeMarcus Cousins has been in and out and did not play tonight for the Warriors, but they bring back Bogut, who played this season in Australia. He looks like he's in much better shape than when we last saw him. He's healthy again, but just in terms of tone setting, which was kind of his job defensively in his previous go-around with the Warriors, what does that mean down the stretch and into the postseason?
From the center standpoint, I'll say the big red flag for the Warriors to me was rim protection and pick-and-roll defense. And that's what Bogut is probably, I wouldn't say the best in the league, but he can hold his own on that end of the floor. I think he was the defensive player of the year over in Australia, and we saw what he's done in the NBA. DeMarcus Cousins, while working his way back into injury, the offense is there, his will to win is there, but defensively, guys and teams and these speedy guards in the NBA can go right at him. So what Bogut does is he mixes it up a little bit, adds some depth to a very thin roster up front on the boards, and now there's a defensive factor. And Boogie comes off the bench free, saying, hey, Boogie, just go score the basketball. And Boogie's a willing passer, but, on that lineup, I like him off the bench.
I'm with you. The one thing, and the Warriors have, I think, the last couple of years gotten bored with the regular season.
Yep, for sure.
They've been able to do that. The one thing that I would say this year is that their defense has not been as good.
Yep, right.
They can't rely on that as much as they can, but I do like the Andrew Bogut pickup. You don't know how well teams are going to go at DeMarcus in pick and rolls.
Yep.
They're going to go at him in the half-court sets. You've got Andrew Bogut. It gives you a different look, not only defensively, but offensively. He's such a willing passer, and he just wants to set screens. He's not trying to score, and that will really help them when they need to get their shooters going.
And something different from Golden State is their bench. They don't have a bench.
Yeah.
They are
like they've had
struggling.
Not like they've had.
No.
I mean, Iguodala still has one of the best net ratings in the league, and he's still vital off that bench. But there's no Leandro Barbosa.
Right. Nope.
And Sean is not like Sean was
Even
a couple
Young
of years
or,
ago, but
one of
still
those
a good
guys.
player. Yeah.
Well, we'll find out soon enough if it all works for Golden State. More coming up here. Checking in on the Kings and the Lakers. That's LeBron James again.
LBJ.
Just comfortable, late.
I represent the state as best as I can, the city of Norman, no matter where I'm at. So that's what I just try to do.
Good for Trae Young and good for the Atlanta Hawks. The Trae has been really good his rookie season, but maybe not good enough to catch Luka Doncic, who came out of the gate doing stuff that folks have never seen before as a 19-year-old, now 20-year-old, and just built this sizable lead over the course of a season.
He's been good from beginning to end. Trae struggled a little bit at the beginning, as most rookies do. But I couldn't have been more wrong on him. I wasn't a big fan of his coming out of Oklahoma. But he's really proved me and a lot of other people wrong. He plays with a lot of confidence, toughness. He works at his craft every single day. He's gained the trust of his teammates. That he's even made this a discussion tells you how well he's been playing over the last few months.
Well, I still don't think it's a discussion, but it's a nice honorable mention. One thing I love about Trae, though, I had a talk with his dad when they came out to L.A., and his dad essentially said, man, you need to get stronger. You got to work harder. You got to get in the weight room. You have to be better. And in the era of entitlement where everybody's telling you how great you are, he's hearing the right things, and you see the turnaround in the season. One thing I also love about Trey, he got back to being Trae Young. Instead of trying to fit into the new NBA, instead of trying to be Steph Curry, he gets in the lane and make plays. He's a playmaker. He's got better size than Steph and more strength at that point in Steph's career. So you see him getting in there, using Collins, using Dentman, moving the ball around the horn, and then he's very crafty, a very, very crafty finisher. And I felt like his season has improved. But early in the season, he was jacking a lot of threes, trying to just play into the mold of what people thought he was.
Percentages were really bad early in the season.
Yep.
It's been playing catch-up in that regard the rest of the year. As the Hawks have done with Trae Young, the Mavericks gave the ball to Luka Doncic when the season began and said, this is your show, go with it. And he is putting up numbers that rookies have only produced. You're talking about the likes of Oscar Robertson and LeBron James.
It wasn't fair. I was in a Spanish league when Luka was there, and he was playing against grown men. Hear me, grown men, where you got to have a tight left hand, tight right hand. You got to have a shot off the dribble. And in Real Madrid, this guy had to, he literally put on a show. Trae Young played in college. It wasn't fair. There was a lot of catch-up. He was a normal rookie. That's what normal rookies look like.
Yeah.
They have their lumps, they learn, and they get better. But you love that Trae has come on. But, Luka came in and he's probably more skilled than half the NBA right now, at least.
I agree with that. And the Mavs tipped their hand last summer when they drafted him and said, don't worry about Summer League.
Yeah.
We just want you to rest. You've been playing long
He
enough.
also played a ton of games.
You've played against grown men over in Europe for the last 3, 4, 5 years. Take it easy. And all of us were like, what? He needs to play Summer League. No, they knew what they were doing.
Perhaps his credentials as MVP of the second best league in the world as a 19-year-old should have tipped us off. I don't know.
Yeah,
We
maybe.
should have seen this coming.
Maybe.
All right, more coming up here on Game Time. Aldridge nearly outscored the Celtics starters. In fact, they only scored 60 as a tandem. Spurs have now won 10 of their last 12. The Celtics, remember that unifying cathartic flight from east to west that landed them in San Francisco? Well, they're now 5-5 since that time. And afterward, Kyrie Irving was sort of in stream of consciousness mode.
Winning's hard, man. Winning's hard. Team environments are hard. It's not as simple as just listening to everybody else speak about what's going on with the team. And it's hard being a professional athlete, being in a team environment, and wanting to accomplish something very great.
It's hard. Winning is hard.
Winning is hard. Being in a team environment is hard. It's the greatest job in the world. It's the greatest job in the world.
What do you take
Amen.
away from that? Does that tell you anything?
It tells me that they're really searching, to come out in front of the cameras and have to explain how hard winning is.
That's
and
hard.
listen,
That's hard.
That is hard.
Yeah.
But winning in an NBA locker room when everybody's not on the same page is very hard. You wouldn't expect the Celtics to be not on the same page, and I think that's the most surprising thing about this. Brad Stevens he's had a magical college career. He's had a magical NBA career to this point, and now he's hitting a little turbulence, and we'll see how he responds.
I think you have to take your hat off to Kyrie in the degree that everybody doesn't step up to say that they want to be a leader. Now there's a learning process for him to say, how do I speak to my guys? How do I voice my opinions in the media? Honestly, Rex, nothing that he said has been wrong, but there's a way you go about things by leading by example. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you bring a guy to you one-on-one because once he sees something said in the media and he sees it on the phone or his people are hitting him saying, man, guess what Kyrie said today? They're all fired up, and there's a huge discord where it seems like there's a lot of individuals and not a team. Guys are playing for themselves, and you brought up a point off air that we talked about. They're going to get paid. They're going to get the recognition if this team just wins. This isn't a deal where they got to go get numbers,
No, it's a fair point. In terms of, obviously, he's the guy reporters are going to go to. He's expected to speak after just about every game. What should he be talking about, and what should he not be talking about, and maybe addressing with teammates when the cameras aren't around in the locker room or at practice?
He's got to, now that I'm on the side of the media, right? Yeah. You got to be Manila. You've got to give them nothing. We're working hard. Coach is great. We'll be better. Then before the media comes in or anybody comes in, You're honest with your teammates. You can't be the other way around where you're telling the truth to the media and then you speak to your teammates and we're not talking about things we really need to discuss. I don't know whether he said what he said to the media, to the teammates or not, but I know once it gets to the public eye, it magnifies so much more. And he's got to be Manila. I'd like to say no more headlines, but he promised no more headlines, and the frustration sets in and he does it again.
And then you got to explain yourself, right? Because things are interpreted, and other players, a lot of players say they don't pay attention to what the media says, but ultimately it gets to them one way or the other.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's friends texting them or them actually reading it. And then they've got to go to the player who said whatever he said and say, hey, man, what's going on?
No question. I'm speculating. Kyrie won on a much bigger level than I ever did. He's won a title, but he hasn't won a title as the leader on his team. And I think he's going through some growing pains as well. I think he admitted that earlier this year. He acknowledged it, and that's good. But there are some issues there. I'm sure we'll find out. I'd love to know what happened in the 35 to 40 minutes after the game tonight before the media got in there. I'm sure it'll leak out in the next few days, but as things
everything
do now.
does.
You know what's really interesting to me when I look at Kyrie, when I look at LeBron, you got to rewind to that Cleveland team. And you want to think and assume that they took things for granted. They were one of the oldest teams in the league. Those rosters were rosters of pros. Now, maybe you can question the talent or what they had built around what was there in Cleveland, but they were pros. And now you get to L.A. if you're LeBron. Now you get to Boston if you're Kyrie. And you kind of took for granted what you had in Cleveland. So hats off to Cleveland and that front office. They've been taking a beating. But Kyrie and LeBron are saying it's much harder than expected, especially when you go out.
Speaking of LeBron, he and the Lakers are at.
Bogdanovich loves the Lakers, especially in the fourth, because Marvin Bagley gets him up and he'll come back and shoot his second free throw.
I know you guys, as veterans of the league, we're taking note of the shot selection.
Oh, my gosh.
On both ends of the floor.
If you're the Kings, you're still playing for something. Run your offense. Get a good look. Find out a mismatch. Work it around. The Lakers, they're on vacation mode right now.
Yeah, especially that last jump shot attempt by LeBron. Caught it, dribbled straight to the corner, and shot a fadeaway over two guys off the side of the backboard.
Man.
Yeah.
Hey.
Well, and prior to that, you had the Kuzma three, which was like a foot off.
Airbank.
But you guys in particular, the Bogdanovich three, and he's a good shooter, but the Bogdanovich three you thought was ill-advised.
If you're the Kings, you get caught in playing that tempo. And I know they lead the league in pace, so they're right up there in three-point shooting, everything they're doing. But you got to run offense. You got to trust. I played for Dave Yeager. He has a million plays. He's got something for every single position. Run your offense, get a good shot. The Lakers are on vacation mode. You're going to score, at least get a good look. Keep on.
Time is running out on the Sacramento Kings. That's true of the playoff chase and this game with 6 seconds to go. And, okay, this drives me crazy.
What, Matt?
The inability to get the ball in bounds.
Yeah.
And I've seen it a bunch of I feel like this season I've seen it more than any season that I've covered the league. Teams, and it's usually teams, young teams and teams that struggle, but the inability just to get the ball in bounds in a late game situation, I don't understand it.
Yeah, it's usually the sign of a non-playoff team, a bad team. When you can't get the ball in bounds, something breaks down. It's usually young players that aren't very disciplined just yet. But that you can't get the ball in bounds in an NBA game is a big no-no.
It's interesting also, every team in the league switches.
Right.
So now at the end of the games, everybody knows how to switch.
Right.
And there's a lack of big men. So where before the big would always set the screen,
Sure.
you being a problem saying who's switching out, they're used to it now.
Yeah.
And youth, obviously, because
Yeah.
if you're coach, there's no excuse for that.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is it youth? Is it lack of practice time, that combination? I don't know what it is, but it happens a lot.
Lack of
More
attention.
than you would think.
Lack of attention to detail, I think.
Hard to practice now in the league, too, with the new schedule, the 1-and-1s.
All right, we'll give him another crack at it here with 6 seconds to go.
Solid game for McGee. Bogdanovich inbound. Well, they're dribbling it around, and Keel fires it up. And the Lakers are this close to winning it.
Yeah, 1.7. All they have to do is put the ball in bounds.
And they do. Game's over. And the Lakers, they win the season series over the Sacramento Kings. And they end the losing streak tonight. Final 111-106.
That's a good win for them. I mean, it has nothing to do.
What do you suppose that conversation's like?
I don't
Dave
know if
Yeager's got the chapstick out. He's
They're both covering their mouth.
both covering the mouths.
Yeah.
No lip reading involved.
I was just talking about going and getting some dinner, right?
You think?
Nah.
No, probably
No,
not.
probably not.
At least one of those teams probably has to get on a plane. Oh, if we could be a fly on the chapstick.